Hey friends, come on in. Type in freedom now. I have some big news to discuss with you tonight. Some big news to discuss. Double tap the screen if you're joining on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, McBean Immigration TV. Come on in. Welcome. I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York, working with clients nationwide at McBean Law. We have bad news to discuss, which I'm certain you've seen this news today. And it has to do with the fact that our government has found a way to justify shutting down immigrant visa processing for 75 countries. Come on in, type in freedom now, and let us know where you're joining from tonight. The U.S. State Department has issued, I guess, maybe a statement. I don't know. I saw something on X, which I'll pull up momentarily, that discusses the new pause on immigrant visas for 75 countries. And I've seen a Fox News article which says that they have been privy to an internal document from the State Department, which talks about the pause or the suspension of immigrant visas that is to come starting January 21st, 2026, next week, this time. And so Fox News, they broke the news and they also identified the 75 countries that are impacted by this pause. Now, here's what the government has said. If you'd like to see what the rest of the those who are joining tonight's live session is seeing, hop over to Facebook or to McBean Immigration TV on YouTube. On X, the State Department posted post today that the State Department will pause immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose migrants everyone's a migrant today, right? Whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. Okay? The freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure that new immigrants, now they're immigrants again, new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. Okay, so this is what we understand the rationale to be. The rationale is focused on public charge. The idea that if you're bringing a new immigrant to the United States on the green card through the green card process, that you sponsor, you will be responsible for that individual so that that individual does not become a burden to taxpayers. And this is known as public charge. And so we have this built into our system to I guess to protect, well, maybe to protect American taxpayers from the burden of foreigners coming to the United States. So our system requires a sponsor. And so there's this process in place by which a U.S. citizen or a green card holder steps up and says, I will sponsor this immigrant and I will be on the hook for him or her. So that's already in place. Now our government is making changes to the public charge process, changes which are to come this year, maybe as early as next month, as a matter of fact. They've proposed very strict rules to really scrutinize foreigners who are applying for the green card to ensure that only really the best of the best and those with resources can really make it through and get that green card and come to the United States. Now, the rationale today that we understand from the State Department is that the freeze is based on this idea that foreigners should not burden the American taxpayers, and this will remain active until the US can ensure that this won't happen. Now, this is really broad. We have indefinite. This is as indefinite as you can get, okay? As indefinite as you can get. Certainly, once the State Department issues an official statement or guidance or something for the public to view, I'll update you of what the criteria and parameters and all of that they've put around this. But for now, just know that 75 countries are impacted. And here's the list that we know about from Fox News. So we're talking about and I'm not going to say all 75 right now, but there's Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Antigua, Bahamas, Barbados, Bosnia, Brazil, Cambodia, Cameroon. All of the travel ban countries, by the way, are here. Egypt, Cuba, Georgia, Ghana, Jamaica, Jordan, Kuwait, Grenada, right? All these Caribbean countries, Liberia, Lebanon, Montenegro, Mongolia, Moldova. Okay, there are a couple of European countries on this list: Morocco, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Republic of the Congo, Russia, um, Rwanda, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Senegal, Somalia, Syria. I mean, the list goes on and on. Thailand, Uganda, and some others. Okay, so these are the countries that are on this list, according to Fox News, of countries in which if your family member or your employee is going through an immigrant visa process, again, this is for the green card, the US government is saying that they will indefinitely pause processing those immigrant visa applications indefinitely. For those of you who were around back in 2020, and paying attention, I should say, paying attention in 2020 to immigration matters, you may recall that there was also a pause in or suspension, a very broad one, global suspension based on COVID. And that suspension impacted millions of people across the world. And it was based on the public health a rationale at that time. Now the government is using the Somali crackdown in Minnesota as part of the rationale for something like this, okay? And in a statement that one of the officials from the State Department made earlier, he said that the U.S. State Department, they will pause processing immigrant visas for applicants from 75 countries to reassess processing procedures to prevent the entry of foreign nationals who would take welfare and public benefits. Okay, so that's what's going on. Those impacted by this are those going through a family-based immigration process. I would imagine the immediate relatives of U.S. citizens are impacted by this, but I don't know whether it's even that broad until we receive the real guidance from the State Department. But what we know so far is that it impacts family-based immigration. It also impacts employment-based immigrant visas. And then just so you know, what's not impacted, the visa categories that are not impacted are tourist or visitor visas, student visas, and any other non-immigrant visa categories. So someone says this too shall pass. I agree with you, but this is, this really touches the globe. right? This touches the globe because you're talking about family, you're talking about connections, you're talking about spouses who want to be together, you're talking about parents who want to bring their children here, or children who want to bring their parents here. We're talking about all these relationships, and we're talking about business and money and the economy. So this was a real bad move. And here's the list of 75 countries impacted by this. Okay. And this, again, the date that we have for this to begin, this pause to begin, is January 21st, 2026, next week, this time. Certainly there will be litigation because, as I've mentioned earlier, if I could just find my, get back on that screen, the post on X says that the freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure the new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. I don't know how they're going to figure that part out. So this is real bad news, guys. Someone is asking on Instagram, can a judge block this? Yes, a federal judge can block this through the right litigation. And of course, something like this could also go all the way up to the United States. What about spouses? We're waiting to see whether there are any exceptions to this. Immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, we would, obviously that would be great. But the U.S., someone is asking, what about the interviews? The U.S. embassies, the way that other suspension of visas work in the past is the U.S. embassy, you could get really far in the process, but the U.S. embassy would not issue the visa, okay? Adjustment of status. My colleagues and I were discussing this earlier, okay? Guys, I'm still recovering, so bear with me. We were discussing adjustment of status in light of this news. So, if individuals are here in the United States on their visa and you're still in your I-94 period, you're in a lawful status, so to speak, here in the United States, and a visa is available for you, your priority date is current, or you're an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, and you've changed your mind and you've decided, I'm just going to stay with my relative here in the United States and not, try to ride out this process back home. That's your decision to make. You're free to change your mind, and you could certainly pursue adjustment of status. Our system allows you to apply for a green card. Change your process, so to speak, switch it up and apply for a green card right here in the United States. So for some of you, I know that you probably will be changing your mind when that time comes, okay? Let's see, let's just jump back over here. What I'll do is I'll keep the list of countries up on the screen so that you guys can see this, okay? If you're now joining, I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer, and we're talking about the pause that is to come starting January 21st. Next week on visa processing for 75 countries. The list of countries include the Bahamas, Barbados, Brazil, various African countries, some European country. Well, there's Moldova, there's Montenegro, there's Morocco, there's Macedonia, Liberia, Libya, Lebanon, Russia, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Haiti, Iran, and many others are on this list. Somalia, Senegal, St. Lucia, Afghanistan. There are just so many countries on this list. Type in freedom now, freedom now. What it will not be impacted is, of course, entry by those with a temporary visa, like a visitor visa or a business visa or student visa. Our government has not put a pause on you on those types of visas. So if you do have one of those visas, a visitor visa, and you're able to travel to the United States, you still will be able to do so. Okay, provided that you're not also coming from a travel ban country. Okay. Thank you guys. Double tap the screen. Freedom now, freedom now. So this will impact marriage cases. This will impact parent filing for children cases, all of that. Okay, all of those types of cases, immigrant visa cases. Now, what we don't know, but we're watching for, okay, I'm just signaling this to you guys. This is not a fact yet, so just, make sure that you quote me correctly on this. What we're watching for is whether the next step would be for the government for USCIS to jump into the mix of this and say now, oh, here's an updated policy that we would like to share with you guys. We also are assessing the public charge issue as well. And we want to also ensure that people who are going through a green card process here in the United States are not going to extract money from taxpayers. So we've got to put a pause as well on those very same 75 countries. And we will pause adjustment of status. We will pause asylum. Well, we already know asylum is paused right now, but that's what I suspect potentially the next step will be by USCIS, because that's what we've been seeing them do. But let's just wait and see if they would actually take things that far. Okay. If you've already, someone is asking, what if you've already gotten your visa? Then you're fine. When rules like this go into effect, it's always, on the date of, right? It's effective. This one, the pause is January 21st. So I believe that if you had already gotten your visa, then you should be fine for entry into the United States. Someone is asking whether Trinidad and Tobago is on this list. And I do not see Trinidad on this list that Fox News has put out here. I do not see Trinidad on the list. I see St. Vincent. I see, what else? What other? I see Grenada. I see Jamaica. I see Barbados, right? Antigua, Bahamas. But I do not see on this list from Fox News, I do not see Trinidad. Okay, Antigua, St. Lucia, those two are also on the list. Okay. Someone says almost the whole world is on the list. No, that is not true. Go look up how many countries there are in the world, and then you'll understand why I say that. Is China on the list? China is not on the list. Japan is also not on the list. Someone is asking. Okay, the world is a big place, but this government has honed in on people of color primarily, and they did throw in a couple of European countries here. Let's see. Let's go down to additional questions. So, friends, again, the big takeaway is about public charge and the fact that our government, they're making changes to those rules so that they can weed them out of the immigration process. And so they're working on the back end, they're doing that. And now they're saying, oh, here's an additional thing that we could do. And we've been talking about the fact that there's this movement towards pausing immigration, all immigration, placing a moratorium on immigration, all immigration for the most part, based on discussions that some Republican Congress people are having. And so this comes as no surprise. We know that this government is highly motivated to really shut down immigration from all sides, all angle, and place more people in removal. Okay, let's see. Let's go down. What does the pause mean? So the pause mean that a U.S. embassy official cannot issue a visa to an immigrant visa to an individual who is otherwise eligible for it and have waited and gone through the process, paid the fees, followed the rules, submitted all their documents, and just waited now to join their relative or to start working for a company here in the United States. It's those people will not be getting a visa unless there's some sort of injunction on this, because this is kind of crazy. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. Let's see. Even in the midst of me, we're talking about big news here, and people are asking, can I travel on my green card? Guys, this is about family unity. This is about people being able to come to the United States. Okay. This is about businesses being powered by people who they need to work in their companies. This is big. This is about the US saying that, well, we're going to take a step that will impact millions of people around the world. And just like that. And it's about power. So certainly this is gonna have strong pushback. Again, on this list, there's Albania, Algeria, Antigua, Armenia, okay, Bangladesh, Brazil, Bosnia. I'm trying to get it out. Egypt, Dominica, Cuba, Congo, okay, Ethiopia, Ghana, even countries that are so friendly with the US, right? Ghana is on the list, Jamaica is on the list, Iraq, Iran, of course, Haiti, of course, and so many others. Russia, okay, thank you. Let's see. We'll see what someone is asking about visiting the US during times of an emergency. We'll see what types of exceptions they will put in place here. But certainly there's a medical B2. Yes, so if there's an emergency, for instance, there's a medical emergency B2 process that would allow you to get this temporary visa to come to the United States for medical care. So that's okay. You could still do that. You could still, I believe, be able to get that type of visa to come here. Is Honduras on the list? I don't see Honduras on this list from Fox News. Cameroon is there, yes. Okay. Is this about immigrant visa processing or for all visa processing? This is about immigrant visa processing only on both the family side as well as on the business side. A lot of people are saying this too shall pass, this too shall pass. I agree with you. I agree with you. Except most European countries. Yes, that is correct. We do not see many European countries on this list. Did a court approve this? A court does not have to approve this, Michael. This is a policy decision that decision makers at the State Department or White House, they've made this decision. Is the denial rate going up for people who are going through the adjustment of status? I'm not sure if the denial rate itself has gone up. I haven't seen any data to suggest that. I do know that they're placing more people in removal after these types of cases are denied. Okay, thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you. Double tap the screen on TikTok. Thank you for joining tonight. Share this with your feed on Facebook. Share this with your feed. We will also share a carousel after I'm finished with this live session. I wanted to do this first. We'll share a carousel on social media with some information about this and what you should really be thinking about. But the first thing that I certainly want to say to you is do not panic. Do not panic, okay? This too shall pass, and litigation is sure to come. Secondly, keep everything still organized, all of your documents and everything. And also, if you plan to come to the United States on a visa to visit your family or for a short stay here in the US, just keep in mind that if big if if a visa is available to you, um, meaning that your priority date is current or you're an immediate relative of a US citizen, right? And you had never engaged in unauthorized employment, here in the United States, although that doesn't matter for US immediate relatives of US citizens. But for everyone else who are not immediate relatives of US citizens, if you've never overstayed in past visits to the US, if you've never worked without authorization and your priority date is current, just keep in mind that if you decide that you're going to stay in the United States, you can't come here for the purpose of staying and adjusting your status. That would be wrong. But if things happen and you change your mind and decide to stay, you will have the option to adjust your status in the United States as well. Okay? So keep that in mind for people who have, um, a visa to be able to visit the United States. Also prepare for scheduling delays, longer administrative review processes, and additional scrutiny and such. Be careful of scams. Avoid paying anyone who could guarantee you an interview slot in your home country. Be careful of things like that. Avoid those types of scam. Get case-specific guidance from an attorney if you need to inquire more about your case. But do not panic. All right, we're in this with you. Do not panic. Someone says, God is in control. Do not let the enemy put fear in you. Exactly, exactly, exactly. This morning, I said in my car to you guys, maybe not to McBean Immigration TV, but on social media, that we should flood the zone, flood everything, the internet with positivity, with encouragement, with light, because the darkness cannot overcome the light. So be strong, okay, guys? And do not be alarmed and do not panic. Will this impact the application called I-130? No, this won't. This news that we are talking about tonight at this point, uh, as far as I know, no announcement has been made by USCIS about the connecting USCIS processing of I-130s to something like this. That has not happened yet. So that has not happened. So the I-130s will still be moving forward, but we also know that there is a pause on all applications for the 39 travel ban countries. So I guess this batch will be called the visa suspended countries. I don't know what we're going to call this batch of 75, but it continues to grow, as you guys can see, incrementally. Um, Not sure about the K-1s right now, to be honest with you, because I know there are some embassy consulate posts that consider the K-1 as an immigrant visa, whereas generally speaking, it is considered a non-immigrant visa. I'm waiting to hear what guidance the American Immigration Lawyer Association has to provide about this. Right now, they're trying to process this just as we are together. So stay tuned about the K-1. But like I said, in some places it's considered an immigrant visa. In other places, it is non-immigrant visa. Okay, thank you guys. Let's go down a little bit to your additional questions. VAWA cases are not connected to this because this is about immigrant visa, people who are outside of the United States trying to come through a U.S. embassy or consulate for processing. Nothing has changed with the I-751 removal of conditions process. That's part of this. I have an appointment in February. Will this impact things, yes. If it's for the immigrant visa, yes. And you're with from one of these countries. South Africa is not on this list, okay? Someone says South Africa has escaped again. They are not on this list. My husband has his interview coming up next Tuesday. Will this impact his interview appointment? I don't think so, but pay very close attention. I would not be surprised if the embassy sends an email rescheduling. I don't know. They might do that, or they might just press on with the interview and issue him his visa. That would be amazing, right? Because I think the 21st is next Wednesday, right? Am I correct about that? If I'm correct about that, just let me know I'm correct about that. This does not impact DACA renewal, okay? I have a pending case with USCIS. Can I travel around the United States? I would, like I've been saying, I don't think it's a great idea for individuals who are undocumented to travel around the United States at this time. I just don't think it's great. There's so much biometrics going on, everywhere, really. And TSA is communicating with ICE and sharing data on all traveler information. And if you have a removal order, or you're in the removal system, it's possible that ICE could arrest you at the airport. So just be very careful. I don't think it's a great idea to fly around. Can lawyers fight this through litigation? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Okay, let's go down a little bit. Freedom Now. Uruguay is on the list. Yes. Afghanistan as well. Okay. This does not affect F1 student visas. It does not affect them. Students and those with a visitor visa, B1, B2, you're not impacted by this. You could still travel to the United States. Okay. Someone is asking whether they could travel on Greyhound or Peter Pan bus. My philosophy is that it's not a good idea. Because I've seen over the years how people get in trouble on those buses. It used to be safer to fly around the United States versus getting on one of those buses. I don't think that's a great idea. Zimbabwe, I don't see Zimbabwe on the list, no. Mexico is not on the list either. St. Kitts is there. Okay, guys, if you're just joining, you should understand that January 21st is the date that they've put in place for this pause on visa to suspend visa processing for 75 countries, and they are using public charge as the rationale for this. Let's see. Let's go down. If I have an immigration visa appointment, what will be the outcome? It depends on when your appointment will be, of course. And if it's after, I believe after the 21st, then they will not. Most likely, they're going to reschedule your appointment or cancel it. Cancel, because again, this is indefinite that we know of today. Hopefully things will change and we will get more guidance and clarity from the State Department, a proper statement or press release. What we got today was this awful post on X saying the State Department will pause immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. The freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure that new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. That's all we know officially from our government, this right here. Hopefully tomorrow or in the days ahead, we'll know more. Okay, let's see. I do see questions about being detained and such. I'm gonna cover, I could cover those types of questions in um, upcoming live sessions. Jamaica is on the list as well, so is Ghana. Okay. This does not impact naturalization. This is about those who are outside of the United States applying to come to the U.S. permanently through the green card process. USCIS has not connected their policies and applications to this quite yet. St. Vincent is on the list, right? I did say that earlier. Let's get the list back here in front of me. Yes, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's see. Philippines is not on the list. Someone like that. Philippines is not on the list. I should just keep saying that, right? Philippines is not on the list. That's enough. No more gifts. Philippines. There are some countries that, we don't know what the rationale is for the specific countries that they've selected here, aside from maybe racism. That's just my thinking initially. Of course, I don't know why some of these other ones are on the list. We know why Somalia is on the list because they're hyper focused on some folks from Somalia at this time. They're doing a major crackdown in Minnesota. But certain other countries, it's just really unclear why they made this particular list. Mongolia, right? It's very strange. Jamaica. It's really just what's really awful too. I mean, like a country like Jamaica just went through a major humanitarian crisis, major crisis with the hurricane a couple of months ago, major crisis, and people are trying to bring their loved ones to the United States. And for our government to turn around now and say that the immigrant visa process should be suspended for Jamaicans, it's really shocking in some ways. The DV lottery has also been paused. Pakistan, yes, is on the list. Is all African countries on the list? No, not all. South Africa is not on the list, and there are others that are not on the list, like Zimbabwe and some others. Jamaica is on the list. And Ghana. Will this affect the 601A waiver process? Well, you're going to have lawyers tell you that it's obviously not a good idea to leave the United States to go try to process at the U.S. Embassy through the 601A process. Yes, you should still file a 601A because it takes years for it to process, and this too shall pass, of course. And you want to make sure that you're in line once this goes away, that your case is approved, and then you could go to interview for the immigrant visa. But immigration lawyers will be telling folks that if you're during this time when a visa is suspended, immigrant visa is suspended, you're not going to go very far in the process to get a date, first of all, from the U.S. Embassy. They're just not going to issue dates for interviews. So in that sense, it will impact those who are going through the I-601A waiver process. So that is also the next stumbling block. You wait years to go through this I-601A process. Well, first of all, being eligible to begin with, and then you go through the 601A process, and then you find that our government has done this very cruel thing. And a lot of our clients are impacted by this. A lot of our clients are really impacted by this. Yeah. Conditional residents are not impacted by this because you're going through a process right here in the U.S. through USCIS. So you're not hurt by this process unless USCIS connects their work to this. Um, are religious visas affected by this? The temporary ones are not impacted by this, but if you're trying to do a green card process, then yes, you would be impacted by it. But most people are coming over here on the R visa. They should be fine. They should be fine because it's non-immigrant. Zimbabwe is on the partial travel ban list still. I need an update on that one, Zimbabwe, because someone has just pointed out that Zimbabwe isn't on this list. Let's see. Okay. I have to circle back with you about Zimbabwe. This does not impact pending I-485 adjustment of status cases. But keep in mind that the 39 travel ban countries, those applications are paused. Guys, there's so much going on. There are different elements here of different pauses happening here. And the list seems to be growing of countries paused. Jamaica is not on the travel ban list, but it is on this one here. Okay, someone says they made the formal announcement. Let's see if I could get that. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's not what I need. Come on in, guys. Okay. Will they be adding more countries on this list? I don't know. I'm not sure. What kind of visas? The immigrant visas are impacted here. Let's see. Go down a little bit. Does it mean, where is this question? Does this mean countries that were on the initial list that are not on the 75 country list are off the hook? I don't think that's what that means. I just don't think that's what that means. This list that we have in front of us is a list from Fox News that they have in their article today saying that, oh, we've seen internal documents. We're the first to have gotten the information, and here it was shared with us. What about people who are being filed for? Those are the exact people who are impacted by something like this, if they're from one of these 75 countries. One of my colleagues is also searching for the official announcement. Like I said, the only announcement that we've seen is the one on X. That's the only official announcement that I've seen so far. We're still going to be searching, of course, but I don't think the government has put something out there quite yet. And if you have a different link, certainly put it in the chat for us, please. Does this mean that people with green card interviews from those countries should be worried? Well, don't be worried and do not panic. It just means that starting January 21st, they will not issue immigrant visas if you're from one of these 75 countries. Someone says, I find it interesting that so many Caribbean countries were picked. I do as well. I find it very interesting because I remember seeing Marco Rubio in Jamaica laughing it up with the prime minister there. I think it was in the summer, shaking hands. They were like best buddies. It was just so chummy. I thought to myself, oh, wonder what's going on here. A lot of closeness with the Caribbean. That's been the history of the US. We're all in the Western Hemisphere. So for them to do this to Caribbean countries, it's really shocking, I think, as well. Hi there, Lorraine. Thank you for being here. Good to see you, Miss Gordon. Kenya, I don't see Kenya on this list. Kenya is not on this list. Let's wait for more official information from the government. Can you serve and help me in Florida? Yes, we do have clients in Florida. Contact our office at 914-898-9488 to schedule a consultation with us. Again, just to summarize, as we wrap up, today our government has announced on X that they are planning to suspend immigrant visa processing so that they could re-examine things and figure out how to prevent foreigners from these 75 countries from tapping into and extracting wealth from the American people. And so they are going to suspend the processing of their green cards. And the list includes Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Antigua, Armenia, Bahamas, Azerbaijan, forgot that one, Bangladesh, Barbados, Belarus, Belize, Bhutan, Bosnia, Brazil, Burma, Cambodia, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Colombia, Congo, Cuba, Dominica, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Fiji. Fiji is on the list. Gambia, Georgia, Ghana, Grenada, Guatemala, Guinea, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Ivory Coast, Jamaica, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Macedonia, Moldova, Mongolia, Montenegro, Morocco, Nepal, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Republic of the Congo, Russia, Rwanda, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. Those are the countries that I see today, that I saw today on Fox in their article, Fox News. And so this does not impact those with a student visa and visitors and other non-immigrant visa categories. Do not panic. Certainly know that delays are expected ahead with visa processing, and this really, 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 really sucks. This is one of the most awful things that I think that they've done so far. And just know that most likely there will be litigation to challenge this because we don't see a real rationale here. There's no justification, and certainly we did not see any real exceptions here. So let's wait for more information from the US government before panicking. Yes, Bahamas is on the list. Okay, friends, I'm sorry to have to be the one to discuss these kinds of things with you. I wish we could talk about other things, honestly, sometimes. I really do. But this is life. We will get through it. We're getting through it together. Stay strong. Have a game plan ahead. And just keep in mind that if you have a visa and you come to the United States and if your category is current and you're in lawful status still through your I-94 period and you're in a certain category, not an immediate relative category, but any other category, and the visa is available for you. You had not worked without authorization in the United States in the past, and you had not overstayed a visa in the past. And lastly, you've changed your mind and decided, I'm staying because of whatever your reason is, then you'll be eligible to seek adjustment of status at that time. Or if you're an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen and you're here visiting your relative and you've also changed your mind, you could also seek adjustment of status. YouTube, I apologize for Monday. We had a huge technical glitch with the software, the streaming software that I use, and I was not able to be with you on Monday. And Facebook, my apologies for that. Guys, thanks so much for being here with me. I'm going to jump off now and get out of the office. I will be back before you guys this week. Again, we're going to have to keep talking because this is so big. Thanks so much for being with me tonight, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.